Okay.
Hello.
We're live.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
You okay?
A
little blood pressure still?
A little bit.
Hey, I'm Lewis.
I'm Samuel.
We're with the Deep Heart Film Festival. Thanks for joining us for our live stream today. Just giving you a few updates of what's happening this weekend, this month for the film festival.
Yep.
Happy Cinco de Mayo to you. Yes, happy Revenge of the 5th for all of those that celebrate Star Wars days. Are you a Star Wars guy?
You know, I'll watch it, but I'm gonna be more Star Trek guy. I just want to just a little. This little earbud in my ear. This is delayed because I'm hearing the feed as well. So I'm tortured right now.
Well, I'm very happy to be part of Samuel's torture, and I'm happy to be part of your torture watching us today as well. I am a Star Wars person, although I'm really late. I haven't caught up on the Mandalorian yet, so no spoilers. Star Wars, good time. Thank you for that.
Somebody guys.
So some of the stuff happening this weekend, if you are in Waco, there's the 11 Amp series that's happening at East Waco, across the river, Bridge Street area, over by Brotherwell. So Brotherwell people are fantastic too. So head on over there, check out the music this weekend. There's also more music with the Brazos Night series. That's going to happen at Indian Springs Park. I think that's tonight or tomorrow, but you can check out their website, the Brazos Night website, for the music that's playing this weekend. Samuel, you and I had an opportunity to do a catch up with Michael Larson yesterday as well. He just opened up a new exhibition. You want to tell us about that?
Oh, it was great. So Michael Larson, some of you may know, he's a big fan of the fest. He actually and his wife Tracy volunteer every year, and they are amazing photographers. They basically have photographed, Brad Pitt, Eddie Murphy, Kate Blanchett, you name. In fact, if you go to Cultivate right now, his exhibit is not any of them, except there is
Way to detour.
There are a couple of, they do have a couple of those and stuff. They have a big portrait of Eddie Murphy and Kate Blanchett and Dame Judi Dench. But what he's done this year, he went with, many people don't know, Fiona's husband is a scholar who focuses on Pompeii. And so he went with him back in 2021 during the height of COVID and had a chance just for like a week to walk around Pompeii and with his camera and explore and take these amazing, beautiful photographs. So you really got to go to Cultivate and check it out. I'm not sure how long the exhibit is.
I think it's for a month.
It's got to be at least for a month. Yeah. We got to do a pre-show,
like an opening night. I think tonight's a technical opening night.
It was beautiful work, and it's just if you like good photography, especially something that can cover something historical, and just how it even relates to today, I'd highly recommend going.
Yeah, it's a really neat composition where you look at a lot of what remains from us as a civilization, and especially against the backdrop of COVID, knowing how we all retreated into our own abodes for a while. It is particularly moving. So I highly recommend going out there as well. Other things happening in Waco this weekend at Bankston's. It's free comic book day tomorrow. So swing by and get comic books at Bankston's. We're a big fan of them too, pop culture and all that. And
I have it on my calendar every year, by the way. Every year I have it on my calendar to go. And especially because I have boys, and I think I've done it once or twice. But every Saturday that it comes up, something's just happening. I'm getting really busy. So,
and you'll be busy this weekend.
That's kind of what I was going to say.
We'll get to that in a second. Anyway, if you want to learn more about what's happening in Waco, we highly recommend the Act Locally Waco newsletter. Go to their website, actlocallywaco.com, as well as Waco Insider. Both fantastic organizations. Check out their websites, get on the newsletter so you find out what's happening in Waco this weekend. Yeah. So we teased this earlier in emails and such. We are making our first official selection today for 2023. And this is through the Black Glasses Film Festival. That's a program for Baylor University.
Baylor, they have a big sort of film festival themselves, a 2-hour film festival. They put everything in from the graduate students to the first year students, and they exhibit their work. And I think it's a real treat. They get to play at the Hippodrome as well, and get a chance to bring all their friends and their family, and they have a blast. And we love supporting local film in any stretch of capacity, and Baylor's definitely part of that. And so we always, every year, we like to award the one of them that we like the most with a free acceptance, not just admission, but acceptance into the film festival.
Right. Yeah, so it's a great way to support that film program that's here. If you haven't been before, it's usually I think the last weekend in April. And like Samuel said, there's some really great student film work coming out of Baylor. We're really happy to make this official selection. It's a film called Before It's Gone. And we're excited to include it at the festival. We did get an interview with the film's director. He's the writer and director. His name is Luke Amick. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us live today, but we do have a taped interview with him. It's a pre-recorded interview, so to quote Austin Powers, allow myself to introduce myself.
All right. Well, thank you, Lewis. Hi, this is Lewis here, also Lewis. I am speaking today with Luke Amick, the director of Before It's Gone. Luke, hi.
Hey.
Luke is going to be our first official selection of the Deep in Heart Film Festival this year. So congratulations to you. Lovely to have you with us today.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so Luke's film showed at the Black Glasses Film Festival. And that, if you've never been, is the Baylor Student Film Festival here that happened just last week at the Waco Hippodrome. It was a lovely time. It's always great seeing the work that's coming out of Baylor. They do such wonderful things there. And for us, our favorite film of that evening was Before It's Gone. So, Luke, tell us what your film is about.
Yeah, so the film follows an amnesiac who is dating a private investigator, and basically the two have worked together to uncover what his story is, and they think they found the final missing piece. The only problem is that that last missing piece is the woman that he loved before losing his memory. So obviously it's a pretty loaded situation, and things develop from there as he follows up on that lead and tries to reconnect with his past.
So yeah, that's like a really deep film. That's not something that's just super simple that they just came up with it. Where did this story come from? What's the origin of it?
Yeah, so I really have a penchant for anything that's seated in time, memory, the past. It's just always been my thing, whether it be in film, like the films of Orson Welles and Alain Resnais, or if it's literature like William Faulkner, and especially this French writer named Patrick Modiano. And Modiano in particular was influential because the project began with me loosely adapting elements from a French novel called Missing Persons by Modiano. However, as I got deeper into writing the screenplay, it morphed into my own thing. And, you set out to do something when you write a story. You think you're doing this or that. You might have certain ideas or convictions, but you don't really understand what you're doing until it's finished. And especially if it's a film, you don't really know until the film is edited together. So looking back on it, I realized that I was actually channeling a lot of very personal experiences with regret, grief, and homesickness, which is still seated in these questions of the past, time, and memory. But rather than being intellectually examined, I felt that it was better to channel these dramatically, because a lot of these realities were very emotional for me, very messy. And so, coming up with the story was actually incredibly cathartic. I learned a lot about myself, and it just kind of grounded my own relationships to these questions a little bit more thoroughly.
Wow, that's a lot of layers of that onion. So thank you for sharing that with us. That's really incredible. And I feel like a lot of filmmakers often pour a lot of themselves into their work. So you're not alone in that, being a storyteller. So yeah, thank you for opening up and bringing all that out onto the film.
Sure.
And you did say something interesting also, and we found it to be true. When you make a film, you actually make three films. There's the film you wrote, there's the film you shot, and then there's the film that gets edited. And it's interesting how the story tends to morph and change as you go along.
That's just filmmaking. So true.
Yeah, and speaking of filmmaking, you've been at Baylor for a little while now. Tell us about your time at Baylor.
Yeah, so that's an interesting journey. So I'm from South Carolina, and I was born in 1996. So I know I'm still relatively young, but when I was coming of age, there weren't many avenues for exploring filmmaking as a vocation. We had a film culture. I'm from the capital city, and we had a art house theater, which was kind of like my sanctuary. And I got to see Kurosawa films and Westerns on the big screen at a young age. So I could foster my love of film, but I couldn't foster this desire to make movies. So I kind of resigned myself to studying the humanities and hopefully at some point teaching film. So I actually studied philosophy as an undergraduate, but just through a series of events, I ultimately decided that I needed to go to grad school for film. And the plan was to come to an institution and write an academic thesis and then do a PhD. So through a professor at my undergraduate institution, I found out about Baylor. I applied to Baylor, and anyone who knows Baylor's film and digital media program knows that it tries to straddle the line between academia and production. So there is an infrastructure for film criticism and film theory and film history, all the stuff I initially came for, but it tends to skew more production. So as soon as I showed up, there were all these amazing student productions that were going on. So I started throwing myself at any production that would have me. As a graduate student, I had access to higher caliber equipment. So suddenly I'm shooting all these short films. And finally, I realized that, this is my opportunity to try to make filmmaking my vocation. And the older I get, the more I realize throughout life, we have windows of opportunity that open up for us and they don't stay open forever. And I'm very grateful to Baylor because I came here with very little filmmaking experience. I'd never made a film before. And they loaned me their equipment and gave me a bunch of great undergraduate and graduate students to work with and gave me an opportunity to make this my life's work. So in 2 short years throughout the graduate program, I've made 2 short films. I've DP'd about 4, and I've worked on many others. And it's been quite the journey. If you told me 2 years ago that I would have a film playing in a film festival, I would say you are crazy. But, life tends to pan out in unexpected ways. So Baylor has been wonderful. It's been liberating. They've just kind of let me customize my own program and my own education. But all along the way, I've had amazing mentors, including my thesis advisor, Chris Hansen, who is also the department chair. None of this would have happened without him and his mentorship. So I owe everything to all those people at Baylor for making this opportunity happen.
I have to agree with you. The folks at Baylor are fantastic individuals. They pour their heart out into their students, heart out into the program, and we see such wonderful work come out of there. So, you have a lot of great colleagues, and I'm glad that you're one of them out there. So that being said, you're finishing up your master's thesis program, right? What's next for you in your career?
Yeah, that's a difficult one because, typically people like to move to these sorts of filmmaking meccas scattered throughout the United States, whether that be Los Angeles, Austin, Atlanta, or New York City. I mentioned that the film is rooted in a sense of homesickness. So I have this burning desire to go back to South Carolina and try my hand at independent filmmaking because, believe it or not, there is a filmmaking scene in the Carolinas. Probably heard Wilmington, North Carolina, or Savannah, Georgia, where there are established filmmaking, endeavors going on. So part of me wants to try and contribute to that culture and make something happen. And I know there are grants that can, make those dreams a reality. So a lot of it's a little up in the air, but I'm trying to be intentional. In about 2 weeks' time, the cinematographer Before It's Gone and I are actually shooting a scene from another screenplay that I've wrote. And it's going to be essentially a proof of concept that we're going to send for grant applications or maybe do an Indiegogo campaign or something along those lines. So I'm trying to be very intentional and plant seeds that will grow into future opportunities along the way, wherever life ends up taking me.
That is fantastic. I love hearing that. Yes, I've heard a lot about the filmmaking scene in the Carolinas. One of our feature films from a couple of years ago, Electric Jesus, was shot out in that way. I'll have to send along that contact information from the filmmaker, Chris White. He's an outstanding individual. I'd love to connect you guys.
Yeah, fun fact, there's an actor in that film named Gunnar Willis, who was an independent filmmaker that I very much looked up to for many years. He was good friends within my friend group, and he made a couple of short films called Different Times Man and Buster Business. And he was from Greenville, South Carolina. And honestly, seeing that quality of work come from a place that was so close to home made me really feel like I could do it. So yeah, it's really neat to hear that Electric Jesus came over here. It's a weird connection between my life in South Carolina and my life in Waco.
That is so crazy, yeah, because I had lunch with Gunnar it's been a couple of weeks now, maybe a couple of months, because he's looking at doing some other production work, and hopefully we can get one of those films out here in Waco.
Oh, that'd be
I can
wonderful.
visit.
Yeah. He's the real deal. The guy knows what he's doing, and he's making the Carolinas proud. So hopefully we can all contribute to that tradition, and hopefully at some point, kind of like what Waco's doing right now, people won't have to leave the Carolinas for opportunities. The fact that we can hopefully have a homegrown film scene, kind of like what Richard Linklater did for here in Texas 30 years ago, and look what it's become in Austin and Waco and everywhere else.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Luke, thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to have you at the festival. You'll be there. That's going to be July 20th through 23rd. It'll be here before you know it.
I know.
And, speaking of before you know it, our official selections, they'll be coming out in about a month. So keep your eyes out for that. For one more time, thank you, Luke Amick. And I'm Lewis. I guess I'll pitch it back to myself. Off to you, Lewis.
And we're back.
Awesome.
Thanks, Lewis. You were awesome.
You were great, Lewis. Cool. So Luke has now become one of our alumni.
Yep.
And speaking of alumni, we have
Awesome alumni.
Lauren here. Now, we'll get to them in a second.
Yeah.
But we also have other alumni news we want to talk to. And I'm going to kind of look at the camera because every time I turn, I know that I'm having a bad profile. So, hey. So for our alumni, we actually have a couple of cool things that have recently happened. Some of you know Ken Dragman. She has been with the festival 2 years ago, I believe, with The Book of Ruth, which is an amazing film. And she has just recently...
No, she was also here last year with
Yes.
What I'm a Shoe, her screenplay.
Speaking of What I'm a Shoe, she was looking for an airport to film in, and the cool thing about Waco is how film friendly we are here, and we were able to help her get connected with the Waco airport to shoot there, because in purposes of needing a terminal and a look, an airport to an airport, and it worked great. And so she recently filmed, I think it was last month, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to shut down JFK or LaGuardia for a little bit. But Waco Airport's got the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so again, film friendly, and so she was able to do that, had a great time, and I think we talked about that last time, but we also...
Also Vinyl Nation, that's out in, that came to our festival, I want to say 2 years ago. That's out and available to stream on Apple TV, and the reason we're bringing that up is that Kevin Spokler let us know that he has a new project that he's working on. Hopefully we'll be able to get him in next month to talk about that.
Cool. Awesome. And then the last thing is tomorrow is Sunday. Our alumni, Shannon Riker and Melissa Bronski, they're in New York City. Excuse me, they're working with other DIT alums, Chris Sage, Steve Schroeder, and they're doing a crowdfunding pitch for a new film that they're putting together as well. And if you guys want to tune in on Sunday, we're going to jump in with them during their live stream. And that's, of course, going to have to make sure that we're not conflicting with our current guests here who are shooting in Waco this weekend. We have Gregory, Lauren.
Hi. Yeah. So you guys have a film that you're shooting here this weekend, right?
That is right.
That's exciting. So first, tell us, how did this project start?
So this started as an idea that I had a few years ago that I put together as a rough screenplay, and I was really interested in the central conflict that's in the film. I don't want to give too much away, but that idea was there, and then ended up going to the Deep in the Heart Film Festival, showed one of my films at the block that Lauren also had a film. And I immediately got up after the lights went up and went over and said, "That was great. Who are you?" And so we got to talking and we hung out and have just stayed in touch, throughout the years. And she was like, "Hey, looking for a project, and there's, we could potentially come back down to Deep in the Heart with something, and would you like to collaborate?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so I brought this screenplay, in its form that it was to Lauren. And she just brought so much to it as a writer, as a director herself, as this character, and so it was like an amazing collaboration. And I never really had that type of collaboration on a screenplay before, so that was really, really cool.
That's cool. And so, did you guys know each other before the festival, or was it at the festival that you guys met?
We met here. Yeah, in that film block. I think you had just run from the airport to get
To get to the film. I always look haggard.
The story of your life.
Yeah.
Gregory, you both work in production in various ways, shapes, forms. Lauren, of course, you mostly in front of the camera. Gregory, you obviously do a lot of directing. Show a little bit about your history, both of you. Lauren, we'll start with you and jump into Gregory after that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I come from formal acting training. I have a BFA and an MFA. Just couldn't stop going to school. So many letters of acting training, which is mostly a theater. It's a theater-based training program. A lot of the formal training programs. Now and then you'll get a camera acting class, and I think it was at the end of my MFA. So I was in New York for a little while. I was mostly on stage at a certain point, and then I just changed my mind and wanted to come, go to LA and sort of transition my focus to screen acting after my MFA. And I think it was at that point that I just sort of started finding like how hard it was to kind of find your way in, especially with a theater resume that no one in LA cared about. And so it was just, I think I made my first short film, Honor, which played here the year that we met in 2021, I think. And that was born of me just trying to create an opportunity for myself, but it became something much bigger than that. I did act in that film, but I also got the filmmaker bug. And so, since then I've been producing, directing, writing in addition to acting. And that has become honestly more of my focus. I mean, I still audition, I still take work when it comes along, but it's just what gives me the most joy in life now. And that's how we connected.
Yeah. And she's starring in this film that we're making. So, co-writer and star. Yeah, you do it all. My history, I've sort of done a little bit of everything in the industry. I started in unscripted television when the writer's strike first happened back in 2007. I know, full circle.
What they want.
Exactly. So I started unscripted and then moved from that into animation, spent years in animation, and then ended up at DreamWorks, working on their first TV shows, and kind of got burnt out a little bit on the animated track. I say it's like making films from outer space. You make all your notes, and then you send it off, and the animators work, and then it comes back a couple days later, and you make your notes again. And that's with immediacy. It's really cool and rewarding.
That's interesting.
But a lot of trust.
Yeah, a lot of trust and a lot of time. So after 3 years, we work on one big project versus a bunch of smaller ones. So I kind of pivoted out of that and went into like a lot of advertising, music video directing, short film filmmaking. Just like making, I like being on set, I like cranking things out and getting different experiences, working with different crews, and so that's what I get to do.
Yeah, speaking of which, like you were telling us while we were behind the scenes of the other thing, like you're shooting this weekend here, but that was not where you were 2 days ago, and that's not where you'll be 2 days from now, right?
Yeah. So this is a production life, So I'm going to New York right after this to work on a commercial project, and I love it because every single project is different, and that's what I try to do is like bring, have I used this gear, or have I tried that method, or have I tested out this new light, or whatever, And so when I do all that stuff, I get to then kind of bring those learnings and those experiences to the art. Which is what I'm hoping to do.
Cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are both LA based, right?
Yeah.
But you met here. So that's to me, I love that we had to get you both from there to meet here. That's fantastic.
And not only that, I know, Gregory, you do a variety of other things that you like to do. One of the things that you and I have in common is the love of coffee. And you actually do roast your own coffee, which is kind of cool. And you also dabble in music. Right? And music is kind of, and I'm not going to give much away at all, but music is kind of what is the thread in this film as well. You don't have to talk about anything you want to talk about because this is in the early stages, but I think it's just really cool to incorporate that, and I don't know if there's anything you want to say about that.
No comment. No, I'm kidding.
Of course. I love that really big deal.
I mean, that's one of the best things I think that happened in the screenplay. The original story was about an actress, and it turned into a musician. I've been playing music my entire life. I'm sort of dilettante at it. I do it as a hobbyist, but I love it. I play a lot of different instruments poorly. and Lauren's an amazing singer and musician and pianist, and
So I play the guitar.
And so like the fact that like music became a central part of this story is just like, I think it's more authentic to who we are as creatives.
I think that's one of the changes we made. You brought that original screenplay to me, and then we were talking about working on it, and then I think honestly, almost because we wanted to bring it to Waco, for the competition last year, but also we were just like that's actually a really good ground for this story to happen. And I was like, okay, well then I don't think she's this film actress running to an audition anymore. And I was like, what if she's this aspiring country star who just got kind of stuck in her town and never went to Nashville, but she's still chasing that dream. And I think that is like it just grounded the whole story.
Yeah,
I love this version.
And one of the most rewarding aspects of making this film so far, for me at least, was like sitting over Zoom, and writing the song with Aaron Conzelman. And so the three of us were throwing lyrics back and forth, and chord changes, and different time signatures, and it's like so fun.
Who we also met at this festival.
Exactly.
Yeah. Aaron's a great guy. Of course, everyone's there from The Voice.
Yes.
And I definitely want to get to you guys coming to Waco and our grant and everything like that. But I was interested. So, is it what's the difference between when you have a role where you're not having to do an extra thing like sing versus having a role sing? Is it something that's very, very exciting, or is it a bit trepidatious?
No, it is. It is, because especially for this one, I mean, I sing and I have my whole life, but again, from that theater background, I was in a musical theater sort of world. And I played the piano, but I never played the guitar before, and I always gave up anytime I wanted to learn because it hurts. It really does so much. But it just became clear that was what needed to happen for this role, and so I don't know. It gave me the push. And again, I pulled off, I think, as much as we need to for the film, but I want to keep going now that I got over that first hill. And I think that was just really exciting to be able to do it. But it's definitely nerve-wracking because it's not something I have been doing my whole life, and it's something I had to learn for the film. Yeah.
So real quick, can you pop over and see if we have any questions? Because if you do have any questions for us, feel free to type them into your browser or whatever. I don't know.
We got a lot of good
internet speak.
Yeah, we got Doug Durham, Mick Durham watching. It's great. He's jumping in. He can't wait to see the Lark's exhibit, by the way.
Yeah.
Of course, Penn jumped in, said love us and all that. Penn, Honey and Hemlock Productions, obviously.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's up?
Great.
Yeah, they were here last year with the screenplay, and then of course you guys were here with the screenplay last year. Lauren and Gregory won our screenplay contest. Yes, with the script. And so that's why they're here this weekend, as they're filming. And so if you haven't heard of our screenplay contest, we select about a dozen finalists and then one winner. And then the winner gets a rebate. So the way the rebate works is, as long as you guys hire Waco persons, places, and things, we give you money back. So it's our way to contribute to the community, make sure that any work that does happen here benefits here. And then we hope that the film goes out, performs wonderfully on the festival circuit, tell everyone about Waco, tell everyone about us. So, and speaking of the film happening this weekend, what are your feelings now that you're here and you've got boots on the ground? How do you feel about the weekend?
I mean, all of the feelings. It's I'm really primarily excited. This has just consumed most of our years so far, and it's just been really exciting seeing each new piece come together, and especially in the community here, there's so many people showing up, and here donating their spaces or their talents, we're getting cooperation with the police department. Everyone is excited for us to be here, and it just feels great.
How easy was it to get cooperation from the city?
I mean, incredibly easy. We just sort of put up the call, and it's what you hope for in a community that says that they support the arts, and actually show up and do it, and do it in a way that and we're also reaching back out to the city and the community, saying how can we incorporate, we bring in extras and all these things, just share the experience.
Yeah. So I think it's important to come to the film festival if you've never been, because you never know. You may end up in a film. You met like Aaron did, just meeting you guys, able to take part in this, or help making a film, right? Because it takes many hands to get a film going. So we really appreciate all the community partners doing that, especially the folks at the CVB, that's Carla Pendergraft and all of her team over there. They do a great job at making Waco film friendly. Like usually, one of the very first questions I get from anyone who's from New York or LA are like, "What's the permit situation?" I'm like, "No. You don't need a permit. If you're not shutting down the road, you're fine. Yes. And if you have any really good questions, you can ask me, you can ask Carla Pendergraft. We can help you out."
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't. Just as an example of how easy, there's actually a cemetery in Waco that you can shoot in. You just have to, talk to the right people, but the paperwork is nil.
Yeah, you have to. Well, no, there's a little bit. You have to get it approved by the board. Yeah. There you go. That's the word. Yeah. So anyway, guys, what has been like the biggest challenge getting, because this is a remote production for you guys. It's supposed to be difficult. So what's like been the biggest challenge, or like the biggest win, or what are you most excited about for the weekend?
I'll say the biggest win was, you have these ideas in your head, right? And you're just thinking them up, and you're putting them on paper, and you're just hoping that you're able to pull it off in some way. And we worked with a couple of local people, some boots and ground producing help, and they were like, "We've got this, and we've got that." And you see pictures, and you do all that stuff. But a couple weeks ago, we came down for a scout, and we flew down here and like walked through the locations, and then everybody was like, "That was what was in my head, like the exact thing." And so you're seeing this thing come alive right before your eyes. And then I put there very briefly, and you're seeing the people and the places, and it all coming together, and it just felt very I don't want to say easy, but like it was organic. Yeah, organic. Yeah, it just felt very natural. Like, okay, we're all here to do this thing, we're all supporting it, and it just felt great. So I'm just super excited about that.
Absolutely. I mean, I would just echo that.
Thing I'm worried about, I don't know, the rain. But like,
look at myself.
Yeah, exactly. But that's filmmaking. You can figure it out.
Yep. And I mean, you talk about meeting the local production team or local folks that are helping you here. Of course, a big shout out goes to Malcolm, Victor, and Steven with Vision Vehicle Studios. They help support us with the grant here. They're helping you guys with acting support, other moral support, and equipment and things like that. So yeah, much appreciation to those guys, and much appreciation to you.
Real quick, shout out to Peggy Schott, who has just popped in to say hi. So Peggy, another great alumni.
She's gonna
be
around with us this weekend.
Yeah. So if you're out and about this weekend at any of the things we listed earlier, keep an eye out. If you see a bunch of cameras out, you see these lovely faces. We're out filming. Leave us alone. Say hi, but from a distance,
quietly.
So exactly. So let's wrap up. How can folks that are watching this follow you guys? How can they help out with this production? How can we be a benefit to you?
Yeah, if I can pop up banners for that real quick. Go ahead.
We'll probably do socials and stuff, but I will say, like, we're hoping to maybe potentially bring a piece of this. I don't know if it'll be done by the time the festival is up, but we'd love to bring a piece and kind of show what we've done. We'd love to come back at some point and maybe screen the film.
Oh yeah, you'll have us. That'll be a good idea.
And
if we're accepted.
Yeah. And like after the fact, there's a lot of things that we want to do with this film. There's a central sort of tension that it has, it asks a bigger question. And so we're working with local organizations that we're going to be talking about, that we're going to try to support with the financial outcome of this film. And then we're also going to be trying to raise some money to kind of get us through that finish line. So I think that'll be the best way, just to kind of stay on socials and follow along.
Exactly, yeah. All of those things you'll find out about if you follow the social media accounts. I am at Lauren_Knoll. If you're popping that up, or do I need to spell it? Yeah, okay, great.
Make sure I get it right.
Yeah, LAUREN_NOLL. That's on Instagram.
And mine's my name, which is a mistake because it's really long. It's at Gregory JM Kasnick. Spell it really quickly for you: GREGORYJMKASUNICH.
Riveting radio.
And then bye. All
There we
right.
go. Awesome.
Or just look up Gregory Kazanich.
Yeah.
Kazanich.
Kazanich,
Yeah.
I think I just learned this year
I
how
think-
to pronounce
Yeah.
I
it.
didn't even apologize.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes I mess it up, so don't worry.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh.
We're thrilled to be here, yeah.
Excited for the weekend. Excited to stop by and see that. Yeah, so other things that are happening for us, the rest of the official selections, including Force Gone, that is coming out 1 month from today. So keep an eye out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, smoke screens. We'll have a banner flying in the back. Who knows what we'll have? But we'll have those official selections coming out in like a month. I think a month from today.
Sure. Yeah.
We want to start watching them now.
I think maybe
Maybe we should start watching them.
There's
a lot.
Thank you, though. Thank you for trusting us with your work. That's awesome.
Yeah. That being said, when we have the official selections out, VIP passes and ticket sales will start about the same time. Maybe give us a couple days to get that all ironed out. And we'll have a new and improved VIP and filmmaker lounge. Where when you have that pass, you'll be able to go to the lounge. You can drinks all weekend, food all weekend. So it's going to be really fantastic. Yep. Yep. It's going to be really awesome. Also wanted to thank Mike and Allison.
Before we I'm going to definitely give a big shout out. So you notice this is a little different than our normal setup. Normally it's Lewis at his desk and I'm at my desk. But here we are in Rogue Media.
Yep.
And we get to have this. It was fun because they really worked with us to get the feed in properly and make sure the audio was good. So big shout out to Rogue Media for all the help to create a nice live person-to-person scenario for an interview. So thank you.
Yeah, so thank you guys, and thank everyone for tuning in.
Not just Mike, but Allison as well. Allison just choose me.
Yes.
And I just want to say a personal thank you because this is one of our locations.
Yes.
Yes.
We're really excited to shoot you.
But we won't say when, so nobody just comes.
So just stick it out all weekend. Just hang out. But yeah, so thank you, Rogue Media. Thank you, Lauren and Gregory, for stopping in. I know you guys are super busy, so thank you very much for taking time for us. You'll see us again on Sunday on Shauna and Melissa's live stream. We'll be there for a little bit. And
it's going to have to make sure I don't compete with. I'm an extra as well in this one. So
Feature, you have a line. Several
I do
lines.
have several lines. I get to see how it works.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned to the social media channel, and we'll see you guys in the movies.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
All right, I'm just going to go end.